Welcome to the TOCA Backstage podcast. Join TOCA's Executive Director, Chris Wolf, in conversations with the artists and people behind the scenes of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation's performances and events.
Hello again. This is Christian Wolf, the Executive Director of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation. Today I'm excited to be joined by the incredible cast of What the Constitution Means to Me. Jessica Hayes, Brian Singer, and Brooklyn Reiss, as we dive into one of the most talked about and award-winning plays of the last decade. Written by Heidi Schreck, What the Constitution Means to Me earned multiple Tony Award nominations, including Best Play, and went on to receive Obie Awards, Drama Desk recognition, and widespread critical acclaim in its bold, personal, and deeply relevant exploration of the U.S. Constitution. In this episode, we'll talk to the cast, which brings this powerful story to life as it comes to the stage of the James Armstrong Theatre and later at the Theatre West in Los Angeles. Now, please know, because of the actors' busy schedules, we had to do 3 different interviews, but here they are, the cast of What the Constitution Means to Me. It's my honor to have Jessica Hayes, the lead actress for the upcoming production of What the Constitution Means to Me, which will be at the Armstrong Theatre in January 24th and 25th at the Armstrong Theatre. Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Yay.
So What the Constitution Means to Me, it sounds like a lecture about the Constitution. How would you describe the show?
Oof. I would describe the show as not a lecture about the Constitution, but more of an interactive, really conversation between the artists on stage and the audience about what it's like to have a personal connection with, being a human being in the United States. Obviously, we are all underneath the umbrella of the rule of law, but the way that it affects each of us individually is very different. And so I think Heidi Schreck's play expresses that in a conversational way with humor and lighthearted moments, but also very deeply emotional and deeply personal moments. It's a ride. I hate using the word journey because it's overused, but it really is a journey that we all kind of go on together. Yeah.
And in the play, you portray Heidi Schreck, the creator of the play. Was that difficult for you to find that or used? I mean, how do you deal with trying to portray somebody that's a real person?
That's a good question. I've played all kinds of characters in different types of things, and there's always been different challenges for each character that I've played. With Heidi, it is so easy. And I don't know if it's just because I'm also a 5'10" white blonde lady. But I think that she writes in a way that embodies a lot of women's experiences, but also her words just touched me so quickly, so deeply. I saw her perform when it was showcased back in, I think it was 2021 was when I watched it. And I just saw so much of myself in her words and in the way she expressed herself. It was just something that I felt like I was like, I feel like I can play that role. And I think a lot of the concepts that she plays with and talks about are universal to a lot of the women in the United States. And just for myself, being close to her age, close to her style of dealing with difficult subjects, using humor and deflecting, and she even says she kind of goes into these people pleasy, aggressive smiling type of thing, and those are all things that are in part of my personality, admittedly. And so it has not been hard for me to find Heidi. I hope she would be proud.
I'm sure she would be. There in very like way back, I did a little bit of acting. And I know that when you perform on stage, there's usually that one moment that you really just are, are looking forward to in a play or in a show. Is there a particular moment that's like I can't wait till I get that part?
Yes. I'm really excited. Without giving too much away, she talks about her very special relationship between herself and this sock monkey that she's had since she was 3 years old. And her personal connection that she has with this sock monkey and the story around this sock monkey, I find to be both delightful and heartbreaking, and I really cannot wait to share that part of the play.
That is a good part. So when you tackle something like this, like a show that is, I mean, because really it's like all you on stage for the first, well, you're you and the Legionnaire. How do you tackle like pages and pages of dialogue?
It's a good question. First, cry in the car. Step one. I'm just kidding, mostly. Um, I have been, what I've been doing, I'm a musical person, so I do a lot of things audially, like with my ears. So what I've been doing is I've been recording about 4 minutes at a time. Like I'll find the beats in the text that feel like this is a complete thought, this is a complete thought, somewhere around like anywhere between like 4 to 6 minutes long, and I'll record it in my audio recordings on my phone. I will listen to that while I'm walking over and over again, and I'm just taking it like 4 or 5 minutes at a time. And I actually have a schedule that I put into like a little spreadsheet on my computer of like, okay, these 2 days I'm going to focus on these 4 minutes. These 2 days I'm going to focus on these 4 minutes, and just taking it like piece by piece, chunk by chunk, has made it manageable. It's been scary and it's been daunting, but it's been a lot of fun. And I will also say that she writes in such a way that it hasn't been as difficult to memorize as I thought it would be. I've memorized, lines and songs from many other shows where I found those things to be so much harder, because sometimes the text doesn't always make sense in your head, or the line by line moments are kind of like, how are these connected? You kind of have to make things up in your mind. Whereas her stuff just flows. It's very conversational, and so because it feels natural, it's been a little bit easier to memorize, which has been so nice. Thank you, Heidi.
And in the show, there are obviously other cast members. There's the Legionnaire, who's played by Bryan Singer, and the teenage debater. There's the old adage, I think it was W.C. Fields, never work with animals or children. Um, how is it working with another young actress?
It's delightful. I've been in education, in many different types of education, for a long time. So usually when I'm around young people, I take on the role as teacher and coach. And so for me, taking that hat off and just playing with Brooklyn and just being with her as another professional has been A, really nice because I can release my teacher hat, and B, just such a delight because I get to just like see how she interprets things and how she shares a little bit of herself. Um, it's wonderful because it's that feeling of like marveling this beautiful young energy, um, while also holding, I don't know, like holding space for her own brilliance. And she's so professional. Like she's really easy to hang out with and talk to and work with. She's a pro. And it's been really fun like watching her grow over the process, and I can't wait to see how she's just gonna light up the stage during the second half of this play.
Awesome. And so when people come see this show, you said it's both comedy and heavy hitting. What is your hope that they walk away with? What do you want the conversation to be for the audience as they leave the theater?
Yeah. I, because the world right now is so divided, and because it's almost scary in many ways to talk about our political landscape, because you just never know um, the opinions or the values of the people sitting directly in front of you, especially with a big audience that could have a wide scope of feelings and attitudes and personal belief systems. My hope is that people walk away feeling a little bit uplifted with a little bit of a sense that we have a future that is more inclusive, more safe, more joyful, and that something else is possible than what we're dealing with right now. And what I mean by that is we're all fighting, we're all arguing, we are all we're just so on two vast sides of the spectrum, and it's devastating, and I don't like it. And I hope that learning about our history and hearing from a perspective of people who of a person who has been pushed to the margins in many ways, but also is recognizes her own personal privileges, holding multiple truths all at the same time. There's a lot of things I want people to walk away with, obviously. But having that sense of like, we're not divided, we're more alike than we are different. If we can sit in the issues and deal with the truth that many, many people in this country have to deal with, and if we could just stop fighting and talk and recognize that there is an option for something better on the other side. Yeah, that is what I hope people are talking about when they go home in their cars after
That's
seeing the
good.
show.
That's fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I do agree with you. It's like I always say, if you put people from any class or political belief in a room and strip away the political stuff and just say, so what is your goal for your children?
yeah,
It's like, I want my children to be happy. I want them to be healthy. It's like, there's
right.
something we can agree on. Let's
Yeah,
start there.
yeah. We want to survive. We want to enjoy the planet. We want to enjoy each other. We want to recognize everyone's different perspectives, and I just feel like we're losing that. Thank God for the arts because they're helping shine a light on those things, but I just we're losing that, and I hope that this just ticks the needle in one positive direction, this show.
Um, so as a teacher, as a performer, and a musician, one of the things that the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation does is we try to encourage and mentor and find opportunities for young performers. What advice would you give to somebody, a young performer who comes up to you and says, "How do I get to do what you do? How do I become a performer?" What words of advice do you have for them?
Oh my gosh, so many things. But if I were to zero in on like like the quickest thing that I would want them to walk away from is young artists are often trying to, especially young actors and vocalists, musicians, what have you, I think are trying really hard to please their audience. And sometimes when you're young and you're starting out, that becomes kind of your sole focus is, what does my director want? What does my audience want? How am I going to get the next laugh? How am I going to get the next oh, they're amazing. And I would tell them, as early as you can, start finding your voice, start finding the things that you as an individual want to say. Take all of your experiences of whatever you have up to this point in your life, journal, explore those things that make you you. Don't just try to sing high notes like Cynthia Erivo. Don't try to model yourself after other people who are already doing it. Learn from your heroes, of course, but don't try to be them. Don't try to replicate. Be yourself. Be you. Remember what matters to you, because nobody has your experience. Nobody has your brain. Nobody has your perspective on things, and that's what we need the most, I think, in the world of artistry. And that is always something that directors and casting directors and the people that make the big decisions notice those things, and those are the spaces you're going to want to be working in.
That is true because I've done shows before where I've seen people who one person thinks is perfect for the role, and then somebody else gets it, and it's like the director obviously had something else in mind, or the producer, or is like,
Yeah.
this is what how I see the part. Yeah, similarly, we do a show, South Bay's Got Talent, where it's a talent
Yeah.
competition. We have 6 judges, industry judges, and every year the myself and the host will talk about it, and we'll say, "Oh, this person is definitely for sure going to win it," and somebody else completely different wins it, and we're like, "We don't know what happened. That was
Right.
bizarre." Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
It is my great honor to be speaking with Brian Singer, who portrays the Legionnaire in What the Constitution Means to Me. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me. Very excited about this show.
So, um, you as an actor have a very difficult uh, proposition in front of you because you're portraying somebody who's portraying somebody, and then you're also yourself. So you're playing 3 different people in this show. How how do you prepare for something like that?
Well, it's interesting you say that because the original script is written about, so it's only one guy playing another guy. He gets to play himself in the second part, but because I'm not that guy, I'm actually one guy playing another guy that plays another guy. Uh, yeah, I mean, I did wonder how that I was going to approach it, but the script is so well written that it kind of guides you in the right direction for that. Heidi Schreck obviously, was a Pulitzer Prize finalist for this show, um, and it definitely is warranted the way it's written. And I start out as the Legionnaire, and the Legionnaire provides a structure. Maybe he has a little bit of knowledge about the Constitution, um, and he kind of tries to keep Heidi on track, although she's a freight train without a track, and she just goes whatever direction she wants to, and he does his best to try to keep her on track, but that is difficult to do. He's also provides some comic relief without taking away from the central idea of the show. So that's where it starts, but you eventually see that he truly is a friend of hers and an ally in her way of thinking, um, and then ultimately, I don't want to give away too much of the show, but I sort of find my way into being Bryan Singer on stage, which is why this is one of the most unique theater uh, experiences that I've ever had. So yeah, and going back to my original point, I think the script guides you there.
And so I'm curious because I actually had mentioned to you because you and I have for those that don't know, you've done some work for Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation in the past, and yeah, a little bit. And I'm curious, and I suggested that maybe you would want to audition. What was the turning point from going, nah, I don't really want to do it, to, you know what, I do want to do this show?
Well, the title of the play in itself is at first a little like, oh, haven't we just been dealing with just way too many politics? Um, and it strikes you as something like what the Constitution means to me. Is this like somebody who goes up there and just says, I believe in the First Amendment. I don't believe in the Second Amendment. And you don't know what it is until you read it, until you see it. And I think when you first presented to me that you said you'd like me to audition for the show, um, asked me if I had any interest in doing it. I wasn't so sure just because we're inundated daily with politics more than ever that I remember in my entire lifetime. So I think it's the exhaustion behind that. But once I read it and I saw the preview and I actually saw the videotape version of the show that was on Broadway, I said, you know what? This isn't that. This opens your eyes to things about the Constitution that you don't know, makes you start to think about things. Like one of the big questions is, do we abolish the Constitution um, or do we keep it and fix it? And if we do that, who's going to be the ones who are going to be the ones that are going to do that? So I have found out a lot more about myself and through this whole process. And to answer the question directly, yeah, I after reading it and seeing it, I said, yeah, I will audition for that show, and I think I definitely can pull off that guy.
And what uh, the going back to, I think mentioned this to Jessica too. It's the old adage where never, I think it was W.C. Fields, never work with animals or children. And you're working with uh, Jessica Hayes and Brooklyn Reiss. Brooklyn is a currently 15-year-old high school student. How how did what's what's it like working with a young woman like that?
Uh, it's been a while. I think that maybe 30 years ago, and I did community theater as like the last time that I worked with teenagers in a show. Um, I think what's great about this, and what's great about Brooklyn is that uh, she gets to play herself, um, but uh, also adding the theatrical element to that, which is obviously another unique part of the show that you don't see in other shows. Um, and she brings this, uh, you know, teenager-like innocence, but also a sharpness to it that she has innately. And I think that, we're learning from her just because of, we have a lot of conversations in the rehearsals and a lot of, discussions and hearing her opinions on that. It's like, wow, yeah. I mean, we have been going back to being inundated with politics for so many years lately that I feel like we're jaded in so many ways. Um, and she helps keep that balance, saying, oh, okay, well, let's look at it in a different way and seeing things through the eyes of a child or her case, a teenager, really helps keep things in balance. So it's been awesome, and she's doing great.
Awesome. So one of the things I'm actually two more questions. One is, what is your, and this actually stems from a conversation that was had during rehearsals. What is your biggest fear in doing this show?
I think my biggest fear doing this show is when we're interacting with the audience closer to the end that someone throws a question that I have difficulty in answering, or that because of certain external influences that have happened over the last several years where I say something that might be construed as offensive. And we're certainly not there to offend the audience. We're there to have the audience think and to learn from each other. So really nothing more than that, scares me. I'm very excited about doing this show. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of feedback we do get from the audience. And but that little hesitation, somebody might throw something at me that I'm not ready for.
Well, and that's a very valid fear or concern. I- the one thing I think one of the reasons why I was so excited about getting this show in our season was that it's not necessarily a left or a right show. It's more about presenting the question and having people think that yes, or think about the Constitution, which is not always done. Um, so I think and it's like you said earlier, it's like you hear the title of the show and you're like, oh, geez, what is this? But it's truly like you said, a wonderful theatrical experience. So that brings me to the next question: is what is your hope that people walk away from after the show? What's your goal? What do you want the audience to like walk out the door and be thinking to themselves?
I think that everybody is on the same page, uh, that it is old and that certain things need to be updated, changed. I think that the questions are how do we do that kind of thing? And who is going to be the ones that make those changes? It seems
When you
now,
say old, you're talking like the Constitution is an old document. So
right,
yeah, because the founding
exactly.
fathers created it, so it's
Yeah. I
otherwise
mean,
it's old.
we have, modern, devices. You could go after the Second Amendment. We've discussed this over and over in social media and beyond about how automatic weapons were not available. Semi-automatic weapons were not available. They had muskets. The First Amendment, for instance, social media has proven to us that maybe some people should not be given the First Amendment. No, we all should have the First Amendment, but some people use it to spew hate and divide and you know, the reality is that they can use it, uh, you know, however they want without fear of incarceration or fines. But the reality of that is that uh, they can't control whether their employer decides that they're not the type of person they want working for them, or you can create your own social death because people that you associate with may not want to be with you any longer. So I, I think the First Amendment is vital, but I think you need to know that what you say can have effects on, in your personal life. So I start with that, and that should never change. But there are several amendments that should be changed, and I know this is a tangent, but I'm going back to what I originally said. Walking away saying those two big questions. Do we need to change any of it? And who's going to be doing it? And are we voting for these people? I think that's really, really important. And I think that a show like this will influence people to pick up a copy of it. Well, they should be getting a copy there at the show because we will be handing out small versions of the Constitution and really learn more about what is written in there. Because people tend to take one thing, the one thing that means the most to them, and they say, people stand by the First Amendment or the Second Amendment, and then they can't even tell you what the other amendments are. They just know the one. But
Well,
this,
I think that's very true because I know, um, in junior high, high school, you learn about the Constitution and you're inundated with it, and you go, okay, and you walk away from it, and then the next thing you know, you're an adult, and it's like everyone screams first and second, but what's the fifth? What's the sixth? What's the, it's, I don't know. it it's a show that I think needs to be seen by everybody, and I just hope that we get people coming.
Absolutely. I know that it will definitely open your eyes to some things without trying to influence you. I think it's a fun night, and I look forward to meeting some people and being able to, for the first time, it's not a show where you're not addressing the audience. You're addressing it almost the entire time, but sometimes as different characters and in different ways. So yeah, it's really great.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time. I certainly do appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you on stage in What the Constitution Means to Me.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Again, I'm very honored to be talking with Brooklyn Reiss, one of the performers in the upcoming play, What the Constitution Means to Me. Brooklyn, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
So, just so the audience knows, you're 14,
15.
15 years old. You have done a number of theater pieces. You just got off of Peter Pan, I believe, or no,
Mary
Mary
Poppins.
Poppins, and you
Uh-huh.
played Mary Poppins herself.
Yes.
Um, you've done a lot of musicals and plays. Do you have a preference of straight plays versus musicals?
I haven't gotten to do that many plays. I was in a play at my middle school that was written by my middle school drama teacher, but I would say I love musicals because I it gets to incorporate dancing and I'm also a dancer, so I really and then the singing aspect of that all and I love it. Yeah.
So so you're also a competitive dancer, I believe?
Yes, I'm a competitive dancer. I've been doing competitive dance for like 3 or 4 years, I think, sort of on and off here and there, but yeah.
So with being so involved in musicals and being a dancer and a singer, or as we like to call it, a triple threat, act, dance, sing, um, what what inspired you to take on the role of in Constitu what the Constitution means to me?
Well, my middle or my drama teacher at the high school, he posted about it and I've been wanting to like try new opportunities because I've been doing a lot of musicals at one theater company, Family Theater in Hermosa, and I've been there since I was like 8 years old and I've been wanting to branch out for a long time. And when he posted that opportunity, I was like, oh, that sounds like amazing because I would be working with professionals and I would be able to experience and learn so much. And I love acting too. Like I've always loved acting. So the idea of being in a play was super exciting. And then after finishing the play at the middle school, I was like, I think this is something I like really love doing. So yeah.
And so you're playing. The thing about this play that is really intrigues me is the fact that you and Jessica both play a well, actually you all do. You play a role, but you also play yourself. So
Yeah.
how do you prepare for that, or is there a way to prepare for that? As an actor, as a young actress coming into this, um, how do you get your mind around the fact that you're portraying yourself, but you're also portraying a character?
I think that I really channel just like being myself, like not taking away from who I am as a person, but also obviously dramatizing it a little bit because it is on stage and that's how it's supposed to go. But I think, yeah, just like keeping my like core values, I guess, and like just being myself on stage, I think really helps me connect to the character a little bit more because like you said, I'm playing myself. So, but like, yeah, it's like, sorry, that's kind of confusing, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, when people see it, they'll understand. But it's how is it working with? So you're working with Jessica and Brian Singer. How has it been working with these two?
It's just been so inspirational because they are such they're like so amazing just like watching them. Which is why I was so excited in the first place when I found out I got the part. It was because I knew I was just going to learn so much from watching them and knowing that they've had like so many years of experience. And since I'm like just new to this whole thing, they're so talented, and I learned so much from their mannerisms and what they're doing on stage and how they're saying lines and just their work ethic. And yeah, it's like really really inspiring.
Awesome. And how is it how has it been for you? Because you as I said, you just came off of Mary Poppins, and I believe you have another holiday show that you're doing, and then to jump right from that to this, has there been any trouble in the transitions?
Not really. No, I think it's different. I think once we start to like really pick up rehearsals as the show comes closer, it's a little weird jump going from like, because I'm with all my friends over at my company, and it's really weird to go from like nonstop seeing them for like 2 weeks straight, and then all of a sudden just like not anymore, and then now I'm like working with adults, and so it's a little interesting, but um honestly not really. I'm excited to really like sit down with the script and break down my character a little more and understand my lines better, and I think it'll be like refreshing almost.
And some of the content of this play is a little heavy. Um, how has that hit you? Because I know that there are some portions of it, of the play, where Jessica's role talks about um, some of the things that have happened to her character in the past, and um, some of the statistics of women uh, and how they're treated. How do you feel about, I mean, has it affected you in your view of politics, the Constitution, anything like that?
I think I've gotten a better understanding of it now because, to be honest, when I got the part and I walked into like the first table read, we're reading the script and I was kind of, a lot of it was going completely over my head just because like obviously I'm younger. I don't really follow politics and stuff. Like I'm familiar with the Constitution and politics, but just not as in depth as I think like the rest of the cast is, and you obviously, but I think listening to her say it, the and Heidi, she does such a good job of like breaking it down almost in a way that's easier to understand. And so I would say I've definitely gotten a better understanding of it just by like watching Jessica perform the lines and reading the script myself. And yeah, so I think I understand it a little bit better.
Has it affected, do you, well, let me ask you this. What do you hope as a young person, what do you hope that people walk away from after they see this show? What feeling do you want them to, like, as they're walking back to their cars after the show, what do you want them to be feeling or saying?
Maybe just like feeling moved because it's a very like, or oh, this is kind of hard because like maybe just, yeah, I guess moved by the play, and like I don't know if like inspired is the right way for it, but it's just like I don't know because it's just sorry, it's like but yeah, I think maybe I want people to walk away and like sort of like how I did after the first couple read throughs, like maybe they now understand the Constitution a little bit better and its core values and politics, and maybe they can relate some of these experiences to their own lives and they can connect to it on a deeper level, because I think kind of like I said, Heidi Schreck, she does a really good job of um connecting the Constitution to her own personal life. And yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, because you're right. I mean, when I was younger, I always thought, politics doesn't affect me. Why should I care? But as you get older, or at least as I got older, I realized, the Constitution and politics really do affect everybody, no matter who you are or how old you are. So I was just curious because I was always concerned that a young person coming into this role may have, I don't know, may walk away from it being just a little jaded or a little like they not knowing exactly how to feel about the content of the show.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit how I feel right now. I mean, it's definitely like I said, I've gotten a better understanding of it now, but I also I've thought sort of my parents have always taught me like, oh, don't talk about like that sort of stuff with other people, which I completely I like agree with everything. And I think that it's probably not something that should be like super openly discussed just because of like our generation and stuff that's going on nowadays. But I also think, like you said, it's important to know and to know, like to understand politics and how, like, even though I'm only 15, like almost 16, it does affect me and it affects like everyone in some way. Yeah.
Great. Well, we're I've talked to so far. I've talked to Jessica. I'll be talking to Brian soon. They both have nothing but the highest regard for you and what you're doing on stage. So it's going to be lovely to see you perform. Again, that's what the Constitution means to me. Coming up in January, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I love this. Yes, come see it.
Your time begins now.
The Constitution is a living document.
14th Amendment is big, folks.
Centuries of laws that explicitly told my mom that she was worthless.
We have the oldest active constitution in the world.
Just because a certain right is not listed in the Constitution, it does not necessarily mean that you don't have that right.
It is because of the Constitution and not in spite of it that she and I can stand up here today and imagine a better future for our country.
We should be looking at the world with our own eyes, deciding for ourselves what it is that we truly believe.